Am I the a-hole for ruining Thanksgiving? I, 30 female, met my boyfriend, 30 male, 3 years ago. Before me, he was together with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later, we started dating. His mom, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me X's name, until BF got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name, Janet instead of Jenny, fictional names just for the story. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My BF has 2 sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to BBQ at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my BF's mom, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my BF praised my cooking to her husband, and the mom was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my BF what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mom's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What? I thought Janet is bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My BF is so angry with me, and he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, TBH. But I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? Was it a little rude? Sure. But were they being mean to you for over a year? Yeah, they deserved a little payback, and it's not your fault that they're such babies that they scream and cry because a turkey isn't at Thanksgiving. Not the a-hole. Who expects someone to arrive at their house with a fully cooked turkey? Technically, she did agree to bring the turkey, but at the same time, who doesn't have a backup plan? And did they just not have mashed potatoes and, everything else you eat at Thanksgiving? Everyone sucks here. I don't blame you for stooping to their level, but you should have told your BF what you were doing so he wasn't walking into that show unprepared. Fair enough. Fair criticism. I agree. They effed around and found out. Especially after knowing you for over a year and having no respect to call you by your regular name, I think they deserved it. Am I the a-hole for telling a social worker the real reason my sister wants a foster kid? So this is a throwaway account. While my sister doesn't use Reddit, we have mutual friends who do. I'm a 28 female, and I have a sister, 36 female. For the sake of story, I'll just call Jane. Jane is married to Bob, and they have 2 kids, boy and girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids, and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do, but nothing big. I love them. Now, for about 2 years, I did live with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor, money, and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part-time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. It was hell as she took completely advantage of me. I moved out as soon as I could, and we have little contact outside of family gatherings. Now, after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysat sometimes, but I have made it clear, just because I am off work doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid, but a teenager. I pressed her for more info on this. She wanted to adopt a teenager so she has a live-in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic. I want a kid around 16 or 17. Someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a room with your nephew. She only has a 3-bedroom house. Or sleep in the garage. They can help with the housework, chores, cook, and help me with my business. She bakes and sells cookies. Also babysit the kids, so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some alone time. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all, and then when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid. They will be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings if they have been separated from their real ones, and clothes. I was horrified. Told her it was a horrible idea. She didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyway. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister really wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady thanked me. My sister called crying, saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they felt her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. She has sent some angry texts. A couple family members are on her side. They think foster kids are effing dogs or something and would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. So, am I the a-hole here? Absolutely not. You are not the a-hole. Your sister is evil. Like, straight up. Thinking a foster kid is just some free labor shop? And I'm assuming once they turn 18, your sister's gonna want to just kick them to the curb and get them out of there. Not the a-hole. You told the truth and saved a teenager from a terrible life of being used and dumped for another, which is no way to treat anyone. It is a foster child, not a slave. That's just slavery with extra steps. For real, this sister thinks it's like, oh, go to the foster care house and just get an indentured servant. Am I the a-hole for canceling Mother's Day celebration that I arranged for my wife after hearing what she told my son? I, male, 37, have a 13-year-old son. I was a widower when I met my now wife. She has a 16-year-old daughter from another relationship. The family is often on pretty good terms. My son is the quiet one in the house. He keeps to himself a lot, but not to the point of being concerning. My wife and stepdaughter are the complete opposite. They both encourage him to be outgoing and share activities and join gatherings with extended family. My son complained about having to be forced out of his comfort zone and having his need for space invalidated. I spoke to both my wife and stepdaughter and asked them to give him some space and freedom to spend his time however he wants. They apologized and promised to let him be. As Mother's Day was approaching, I wanted to throw my wife a surprise Mother's Day celebration. It was no longer a surprise because my stepdaughter gave her the heads up so she could prepare. Yesterday, I got off work earlier than usual to get final arrangements done. We planned to celebrate at the restaurant and invited her family there. I had the key, and while I was entering the house through the front door, I overheard my wife and stepdaughter talking to my son. My wife was asking my son if he could convince me to let him stay home and not go with them to the restaurant to celebrate. I paused and decided to keep listening. My son said why, and she told him that his introverted and socially inept attitude will make her family uncomfortable and will ruin the mood. He promised her that he'd be well behaved and would try to interact and socialize with everyone, but she said that she wasn't buying it. He kept reassuring her, but she snapped and told him that technically she's not his mom, so she didn't get why he wanted to celebrate Mother's Day with her so badly. My stepdaughter threw some, I don't remember, backhanded comment, and then both of them were shocked to see me standing there. Both were staring without saying anything. I told my son and his stepdaughter to go to their rooms, then told my wife that the celebration was off, canceled. She tried to argue, asking why repeatedly, and I told her why. She tried to explain that she didn't mean it like that and that I only heard part of the conversation, but not all of it. I told her I was done arguing and the decision was already made. She yelled, asking what she was going to tell her family, and said that I was making tremendous mistake towards her. I ignored her while she kept throwing tantrum after tantrum. Early this morning, she took my stepdaughter and went to stay with her folks. Not a single call or text from her so far. Situation is full of tension. I'm upset still, but more hurt to be honest. I mean, yes, I did say I was going to have this celebration, but I thought what she said to my son was too harsh to ignore. You are definitely not the asshole here. You can't let people talk to your family that way, like regardless of their relationship to you, wife or not. Like, you don't let somebody talk to your immediate family that way, let alone give them a gift after they do it, i.e. that celebration. Not the a-hole. She showed you who she was. Let her stay gone. Not the a-hole. Your wife and stepdaughter, on the other hand. Yeah, those people are pieces of work from what I'm hearing. Am I the a-hole for getting my daughter a hotel room entirely for herself after her stepsisters made her sleep on the floor? My dad passed away 2 weeks ago. Me, my wife, Candace, and my daughter, 16, Shiloh, and her stepsisters, 19 and 17, flew to my hometown to attend the funeral. After that, we got 2 hotel rooms, one for me and Candace, one for the girls. While I was in the room, I got a call from Shiloh at 11 p.m. crying and sounded like she was arguing with her stepsisters. I asked what the matter was, and she told me that her stepsisters insisted that she sleep on the floor. There were one large bed in the room and there was enough space for all 3 girls to sleep on. I asked why, and she said she didn't know. I went to see what the issue was and talked with my stepdaughters about it. They kept talking, but didn't really explain why they told her to sleep on the floor. They just shrugged and said, "It's better this way. We're more comfortable this way." I told Shiloh to grab her things, and when one of my stepdaughters asked where we were going, I told her I was booking her a hotel room. Both looked upset, but didn't say anything. But they must have called their mom because she was awake when I got back and started arguing with me about giving Shiloh an entire hotel room for herself. I explained why I did it, but she said I wasted money and that Shiloh could have sucked it up for one night on the floor. I called her unreasonable for saying this, but she told me I showed the girls that I'm playing favorites and made my stepdaughters share a room while I gave my daughter an entire room for herself. We went home and Candace is still bringing it up, saying I mishandled this. She even pointed out how my stepdaughters are upset since they are not speaking to me. Ooh, this one's kind of tricky. I see what the mom is saying, that it's a little bit of a waste of money just to book a whole room for one person, but at the same time, the stepdaughters are clearly plotting something and they don't like your daughter, so I don't know. Not the a-hole. Why did the stepsisters think that this was acceptable? This ain't Cinderella. I'm glad you did what you did. Reward my daughter's bad behavior to your daughter because they are my daughters. Not the a-hole, and both your stepdaughters and wife are. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my girlfriend to stop effing eating? My male 26 sister, female 23, runs a bakery business and she's been struggling lately to keep up with orders because she's been short-staffed. She does a lot of orders for wedding cakes that require custard or marmalade fillings, and I offered to help her out by making these fillings at home and bringing them to her so she has less work to do. Unfortunately, the past 4 times I've made these fillings, my girlfriend, female 24, has literally dipped her fingers into the filling jars and contaminated them because, in her words, she just wanted to try some. I've tried explaining to her that she can't dip her fingers in and contaminate the entire batch because then I have to remake it. I said she should use a spoon and take some out if she wants to try so bad, but she just pouts and says that she likes using her fingers because it takes her back to her childhood. Today, I was trying to finish some chocolate custard to send it over to my sister really fast because she was running late on a wedding cake order for an important client. I told my girlfriend beforehand to not eat the custard, and if she really wanted to, please use a spoon. I get out of the shower, and what do I see? She has her fingers in it again. I totally lost it because this is the 5th time she blatantly disregarded what I said, and I yelled at her and told her to stop effing eating the food I'm making because it's not for her and she's contaminating it. She started crying and got mad at me for fat shaming her, even though I made no comment on her weight and she has no history of weight issues or eating disorders. I know I was harsh, but she kept pushing my limits. Am I the a-hole? I will agree you might have been a little harsh by just snapping and yelling like that, but your girlfriend is kinda dumb, so I don't know if you're the asshole. Your girlfriend is just not smart. Does she also wear a diaper and draw on the walls with crayons because it reminds her of her childhood? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She's exhausting and sounds like she's trying to sabotage you helping your sister. Am I the a-hole for giving my mother-in-law a fake copy of my house key and exposing her on Christmas dinner? I want to preface this by saying that I, female 34, married my husband, male 37, a year ago. His mom is snoopy and annoying AF. She can't help it. That is just how she is, as my dear in-laws say. My husband and I purchased a new house recently. My mother-in-law kept pushing to get an emergency key. She promised that she only use it in an emergency, but given the fact that she had an emergency key to our old apartment and walked in on us being intimate twice, but my husband didn't think it was a big deal, I just couldn't trust her, so I just sent her a fake key after she kept pushing, and she had a smug on her face after I hand-delivered it to her. Days gone by, and on Christmas dinner, mother-in-law angrily called me out on the fact I gave her a fake copy of the house key. She shamed me for doing this in front of everyone, but in my defensive, I asked her how she found out, and she said days ago when she came over at 4 while my husband and I were out. I reminded her, didn't you promise you wouldn't use it unless there's an emergency? So you tried to get in when there was no emergency and you broke the promise you made to us. She looked red in the face, and the other family started staring, and some even laughed at her for the face she made. She suddenly got up from her seat and rushed into the kitchen where she had a huge meltdown, so loud the next door neighbors must have heard. Literally, I've never heard a 60-plus-year-old woman throw a tantrum like that. Needless to say, dinner went awkward, and my husband and his sister were giving me looks. My husband went off on me in the car and said I lied and manipulated and humiliated and exposed his mom, and said he wouldn't have let me get away with it had he known. We had an argument, and he is demanding I apologize to his mom for my childish behavior and for ruining Christmas dinner for the whole family. Am I the a-hole? No, absolutely not. Your husband needs to wake up to the fact that your mother-in-law's a little bit of a psycho, and you deserve your right to privacy where nobody's just gonna wander into your house unless you explicitly give them permission. Not the a-hole. You did expose his mom, and rightfully so. She needed to be exposed. Your husband is out of his mind for enabling and encouraging his mom's demented behavior. Mother-in-law and husband are major a-holes. Not the a-hole, but you also have a husband problem. Am I the asshole for asking mom's boyfriend to stop trying to parent me? My dad died suddenly about a year ago, and my mom found this really nice guy that she started seeing. I'm 23, male, and going into my final year of college. My mom's boyfriend has 2 daughters, ages 15 and 13. My mom has stepped in to be a mother figure to them, and the boyfriend has stepped into my extended family, becoming everyone's favorite uncle. And while I'm glad everyone else is comfortable, I'm not. He isn't a bad guy, I'm just still grieving my father, and it feels like he's trying to replace him. He tries to set rules for me, things like chores and curfew, that my dad specifically didn't because he thought they were ridiculous for an adult. Boyfriend thinks it's only fair because I have siblings now. I think it's ridiculous to have the same rules apply because of our age differences. He's trying to get me to share my stuff with his kids. They aren't lacking for anything, but he thinks it's only fair because family. I live in the basement of my mom's house. I have since I was 15. When you come in the front door, there's a door to the basement and the stairs go into the house. So it's pretty separated. So last night I was D&Ding with some friends and got home at 2 a.m. I had nothing to do until 3 p.m. today since classes aren't until next week and my new job starts in 2 weeks. So this has never been a big deal with my parents. I shot my mom a text and went to bed. Tonight though, man, boyfriend flipped. I got a lecture and sent to my room and possible loss of car privileges. I snapped and laid it out for him. I told him I'm leaving the city after I graduate. I told him I'm glad my mom found a new partner, but that I am not and will not be looking for a new father figure, and he needs to respect that. I told him our relationship won't be father-son for some time, and that he needs to respect me as an adult or that I won't want to have a relationship with him. He told my family and they think I'm the a-hole. Am I the a-hole? No, you are not. You're a 23-year-old adult and this guy is trying to police you like you're a 16-year-old? No, you're not. This dude just sounds like a tool. Even if he was your real dad, you're 23 years old. Why does he give a F if you get back late? For real, you are a full-grown adult. You have your own house key, you have your own car. You can just do whatever. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he got exactly what he deserves when he pushed his girlfriend away for being a gold digger? My brother is a very hardworking man, and at 27, he is now very wealthy and doing well for himself. He's been with this girl for 6 months, and throughout the time, we have gotten close because we both like hair, makeup, and shopping. I never knew there was anything wrong with their relationship except when she texted me last week saying she would love to hang out but thinks it'll be inappropriate because her and my brother broke up. I asked her why and she said she was sick and tired of auditioning to prove she was with him for the right reasons. She went on to say that my brother is paranoid she's after his money, so he would test her like 1, leaving out his bank statements on their bed and getting upset when she picked it up, 2, going out to a high-end restaurant he requested and leaving his wallet at home on purpose to make her pay the bill and prove she's not going out with him for money, 3, never buying her gifts and questioning her when she asked why he doesn't. I was shocked, so I had to hear my brother's perspective. We spoke and he told me everything she said was true and that there's nothing wrong with making sure his girlfriend is with him for the right reasons. He said he left his bank statements on the bed and was peeking through the door to see if she would be curious, and when he saw her pick up the papers, he knew in his gut she was using him for his money. So he set up the restaurant idea to see if she would get upset at paying a $500 bill, which she was. I asked him if he thinks her being an elementary school teacher could have contributed to her being upset at a $500 bill at a restaurant he wanted to go to, and he said no. He said that the straw that broke was when she asked him why he hasn't bought her a single gift since they've started dating, when she bought him a gaming console and new rims for his car, and he knew she was just discreetly asking him to buy her an expensive gift. He confronted her and said he thinks she's with him for his money. So she said, "Let me do us both a favor," and dumped him and blocked him. He's upset about the gold-digging and when I laughed, he called me an a-hole. He said I would never understand what it's like being a rich man and being used, and I get that concern, but I told him if he thinks any woman will be okay with his tests and auditions, he's delusional as hell. If he doesn't want to be used for his money, he should start dating people as wealthy as him, or leave lower income people alone if he's not going to be genuine in his relationship until they pass his test. First off, you're not the a-hole, it's a reasonable reaction. If anything, it sounds like your brother's kind of just the mooch because he's forcing these people to buy him things. So is he really rich? I don't know. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you told your brother the truth. He sounds immature and testing a partner never turns out well. Sounds like he is the effing gold digger, since he's racking up $500 dinners and expecting them to buy him gaming consoles and expensive rims and Honestly, he's like delusional. Like, who thinks that other people are the gold diggers when you're the one getting the expensive gifts? You're crazy. Am I the a-hole for not telling my dad he isn't getting the inheritance he's expecting? My mother died when I was 16. My dad married another woman 2 years later. My grandparents, my dad's parents, hate my stepmother. I really don't like her either. Even after my half-siblings were born, my grandparents never warmed up to her. My grandparents are quite wealthy. My father has been banking on this inheritance for a while. He has even been not paying into his retirement because he is so sure that he will inherit the millions. I just found out on Saturday that I'm getting the majority of my grandparents' estate. My father is getting a token amount of $50,000, so he can't dispute it. My grandparents made me promise not to give out any money after, and I intend to keep my word. But I do feel really guilty that my father just spends his money as it's coming in because he's relying on money he won't get. I also found out my dad is in a lot of debt. Am I the a-hole for not telling him? Ooh, this one is a little tricky. I'm gonna say not the a-hole, since it's really not your responsibility to tell anybody, and it's more so your grandparents just kind of screwing your dad over. Not the a-hole. But your grandparents are kind of cruel for letting him keep digging a deeper and deeper hole, all the while knowing what he expects. They should go ahead and tell him so he can plan accordingly. Not the a-hole. I'd ask your grandpa to break the news to your dad, since otherwise you'll be left with the fallout. Very unfortunate situation. Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up after being asked to remove it? Ooh, this could be juicy, depends on what kind of website. Back in November 2018, I was arrested at work in front of my boss and coworkers. It was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. I later learned at the police station that I was being charged with multiple felonies. This came as a huge surprise. Luckily, I was able to keep my wits and lawyer up instead of speaking with the detective. For $13,000, which completely wiped my savings, I was able to retain a criminal defense attorney. However, it cost me everything, and I was unable to pay my bond. This resulted in me staying in jail for a total of 54 days. At a status hearing, my attorney presented video evidence of me gassing up my car 3 hours away from where the crimes took place, and I ended up having all my charges dismissed. When I finally got out, I learned that I had lost my job, was in the process of being evicted, and my son was in the state's care. His mother is a heroin addict, and I haven't spoken to my own parents in nearly 15 years. They wouldn't let him go to my girlfriend because they didn't consider her family. Since my release, I've learned that I can't sue the police, and no one gives a shit that I was locked up for 54 days because the detective did poor investigation work. I've gone to the local press about this and was told that what happened to me happens quite a bit. They took down my info but never followed up. So what I did was create a website sharing my story. I also uploaded the police report and some other documents from the discovery. Literally the only reason why I was arrested was because an eyewitness said they saw me. If the detective had done his job, he could have verified that I wasn't even in town on the day the crimes took place. This is what pisses me off the most. My life was ruined because of a lazy employee. I'm writing this now because my website is now ranked number 2 on the first page of search results when you type in my town's name. I live in a touristy town and we attract a lot of visitors over the summer. My web traffic has more than quadrupled, and apparently it's gotten someone high up's attention. I received a cease and desist letter recently, which I showed to my attorney. He said sharing my experience online isn't illegal, and that everything I had stated was a fact or my own opinion, protecting me from a defamation lawsuit. Yesterday, I received a visit from 2 officers and the detective who had arrested me. He apologized, stating, "Mistakes can happen." They then talked to me about my website and asked if I could remove it. I said I would delete it on the condition that the detective leave his job and never do police work again. Suffice to say, that isn't happening. After the visit I received, I'm more pissed off than the only reason the detective apologized to me was to get me to take down my website. I don't plan to, and the only one supporting this is my girlfriend. My friends think I'm being spiteful and have suggested that I just delete it. Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up? No, you are not. You are keeping police accountable, as you should, because they get away with this all the time according to the press that you talk to, so yeah, leave it up so people can, know that this is happening. Not the a-hole cool, but watch your back. It doesn't sound like they'd have much of a problem coming up with some BS to get you arrested again. This is very true. Definitely keep your wits about you, but it does sound like you have your attorney still, around, so you have good legal advice, I hope.
Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my boyfriend's family? Last year, I moved in with my BF and his dad. My BF and I were in a long-distance relationship for a few years, and I moved across the country to be with him after I finished graduate school. Due to such a large distance, I opted to sell my car and buy a new one after moving. When I did this, my boyfriend helped me out by loaning me some money to help pay the down payment, but I have since paid him back. Last week, my BF's older sister, who lives in another state, came to visit and stayed in the house with us. This is my first time meeting her, and I thought she was very nice, but I didn't get to know her well. 2 days ago, my BF and I were out running errands together, and his sister called him to ask when he would be back, so she could borrow his car to hang out with her friend in the town about an hour away. He told her it would be a while, and then asked if it was okay to borrow my car. My boyfriend asked me, and I told him I was not comfortable with that and to tell her no. My boyfriend did tell her no, and I heard the entire conversation. Well, a few hours later, my boyfriend and I got home, and my car was gone. I was shocked, and my boyfriend was confused. We went into the house. His dad informed us that he gave my BF's sister the spare key to my car that was in the lockbox because she said she needed to go somewhere. My boyfriend told him that she asked to drive my car and that we had told her no, so he didn't understand why she was allowed to take it, and his dad said that since my BF helped pay for the car, that it therefore was partly his, which meant his sister had the right to drive it as well. I was absolutely livid, and I couldn't believe that anyone would do something like this. My name is the only one on the title, insurance, etc. I am the sole owner. My BF told his dad to call her and tell her to bring my car back immediately, and said she would be home soon. Well, after 2 hours, I called the police and reported my car stolen because I was worried that if it got damaged or something, then I would be forced to pay the repairs, even though it wasn't my fault. My BF's dad and sister were pissed about this, and they accused me of trying to get them arrested. They are now demanding that I apologize to them and tell the police that was all a misunderstanding, but I really don't want to because I feel like they've tried to take advantage of me. My boyfriend agrees with me, but he even said he thinks calling the police to report my car stolen may have been too far. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She straight up stole your car. If she had gotten arrested, she'd have no one to blame but herself. Also, considering what an a-hole your BF's dad is, you probably should look into moving out as soon as you can. Not the a-hole. She asked to borrow your car and you said no. She took the car despite you saying no. She stole your car. You reported her for stealing your car because, again, she stole your car. Don't back down, or I predict this sort of thing will happen more in the future with your sister-in-law and father-in-law. Not the a-hole. The dad and sister are thieves and FAFO'd. If they get arrested, yay. Do not apologize. Do not retract the police report. I just want to be nosy. What's your plan? Because you know you're getting kicked out after this, right? Not the a-hole. If they don't want to be accused of stealing, then maybe they shouldn't take someone else's property without permission. Am I the a-hole for getting a pregnancy craving during a party? I, 29 female, am pregnant with my boyfriend Sam, 32. Sam and I went to a party for his family. No momentous occasion, just a normal family get-together. During my pregnancy, I have had intense craving. While we were at the party, I told Sam I was craving a slushie, about 30 minutes away. We had just arrived about 20 minutes prior, and he said to give him a little while, and we'd go get one. After about 30 more minutes, I said it again to Sam. He said, fine, get in the car. On our way, we got into an argument, and he thinks the craving could have waited a couple hours. He's now mad at me. We have to leave the party early. We see his family 2 to 3 times a month, sometimes more, and I don't think it's a big deal to leave when I have a craving. Am I the a-hole? Thank you, everyone. I get it. I'm the a-hole. But I can't handle the death threats in my inbox, so I'll be deleting this account off my phone. Is there a word for pregnant women that's synonymous with bridezilla for brides? There should be. You're the a-hole for not being able to wait an hour longer. You're the a-hole. You don't have to have everything you crave during your pregnancy the second it pops into your head. You could have waited. Also, why couldn't you go and get it yourself if you wanted it so badly? Why did he need to go with? You're the a-hole. I've had 2 kids. I get cravings, but you don't get to demand that your BF leave a get-together 20 minutes after you've driven 30 minutes to get there. Yes, he put it off, and you were oh so not patient for another 30 minutes. SMDH. It's a big deal, and honestly, seems like a total power play. I would really consider how long he's going to stick around for this kind of disregard for him and his wants. You're the a-hole. Just because you get a craving doesn't mean everybody has to drop everything to accommodate you. If you don't get the slushie, you'll live. Even in such a short post, you come off as childish and entitled. I've got 5 offspring. There's nothing you can tell me about cravings I haven't experienced. You're the a-hole. Cravings are not an immediate, oh my god, must have it now or I'll perish need. Grow up. Would I be the a-hole for not attending my brother's birthday party because I can't bring my dog? I, 28F, have a 3-year-old German Shepherd, Lou, who is the sweetest dog I've ever met. She's very cuddly and loving once she's gotten used to you. However, she was abused as a puppy and has separation anxiety. We've been working with a professional trainer and she's been making improvements, but currently leaving her home alone for more than an hour simply isn't possible. My brother lives 45 minutes away. It's hard to gain her trust, so getting someone to watch her on short notice is nearly impossible. The last time I visited my brother, 39M, his wife, 42F, stepped on Lou's tail and quite obviously it hurt. She didn't bite or even try to do so, but she barked quite loudly before running to hide behind me. I asked my sister-in-law whether she was alright and she said she was, so I didn't think anything else of it. After all, she'd known Lou for almost 2 years before the incident. But my brother invited me to his birthday party next weekend, and he told me to leave Lou at home, and when I asked for the reason, he told me his sister-in-law thought she was too aggressive to be around the guests. She isn't, but it's their house, their rules, and I want to respect her wishes, so I simply called my usual dog sitter, who told me that unfortunately, they weren't available. Anyone else who has watched Lou in the past will also be at my brother's party, so I don't have anyone to watch her. I told my brother I could either A, bring Lou and keep her on a leash at all times, or B, take Lou with me and take turns with my mom walking her around the neighborhood so I could be able to stay a bit without his wife having to face my dog, or C, come over with Lou in the car to congratulate him and bring over his present, but leave shortly afterwards as I don't want her to be alone for the car for more than 15 minutes. He told me that he didn't like any of these options because his wife didn't want my aggressive dog on their property, in their driveway, or in their neighborhood in general. I apologized and told him if that was the case, I wouldn't be able to come at all. He has told me he's disappointed, but especially my sister-in-law has been bombarding me with texts about how he's selfish for putting my dog before my brother, and that I was an a-hole of a sister to do that to him on his 40th birthday. I think I've proposed reasonable enough compromises, edit, and because all of them were declined, I don't see what other options I have left except for staying home. But in the end, I'd still like to hear the opinions of unbiased internet strangers to be sure, not the a-hole. Your dog is preventing you from attending some social event, and if that is how you want your life to be, then it's only up to you. Sucks for your friends and family, but that's your decision. You cannot be forced to abandon your pet, but you cannot force people to be around him, not the a-hole. If they don't like any options you gave them, they shouldn't expect you to attend. Not wanting the dog in their neighborhood is a bit over the top. I know you love your dog, but you can't leave it alone for over an hour. That's a big problem. You are making your life revolve around the dog. That should add to your life, not take things and people away from it. Please get help from a trainer to help your dog overcome its separation anxiety, not the a-hole. Next time your sitter is available, leave the dog with them and go out to do something for your brother's belated birthday and give him his present. There, simple, not the a-hole. You were invited to the party and you can politely decline to go to a party. I've not been on vacation for 4 years because I have a large house dog. She doesn't do well in hot weather and she has separation anxiety for me to be gone longer than 10 to 12 hours. She's okay with my in-laws but starts to hunt for us a few hours after, so we simply don't go if we can't take her. Dogs are a commitment that you sign up for. Am I the a-hole for sending our son away after he revealed to his sister's friends that she has dentures? My husband and I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. When our daughter was 8, she developed a very rare mouth infection that just absolutely devastated her teeth and gums. She ended up losing all her teeth in both sets and had to have some corrective work done just so she could have regular dentures. Obviously, this was very traumatic for her, and she's still in therapy to help cope to this day. Our daughter is very understandably self-conscious about this, and none of her friends knew about them. In fact, nobody besides her doctor and dentist know outside the family, and she doesn't want people to know. She's very worried about people finding out, and won't even take her teeth out in front of the rest of us. She's worried someone will see. Her and her brother had a good relationship until he did what he did last week. He somehow recorded her taking out her teeth without her noticing, and then showed all her friends when they were over. Not only have they all turned on her, but half the school is teasing her non-stop, and she even had to change her phone number because dozens of kids were texting her the most vile things imaginable. I've never been more ashamed of one of my children until that moment. I don't know where we went wrong raising him, but apparently he thought it would be funny. After I kicked out her friends who were mocking her and helped her through a panic attack, I called my father to pick him up and told him to pack a bag and get out. He's been staying with my parents 2 towns over. They didn't know what happened until 2 days ago. That came up because driving him to school was becoming a hassle and they wanted to know what was up. When I explained, they were disgusted, but still wanted to know if they could bring him home. I asked them if they'd take care of registering him for school in their town, and they agreed, but were shocked. My husband and I talked, and we just cannot have him here. My sister hates him. We're so ashamed we can't even think of calling him. It sounds awful, but I don't think our relationship can recover from this, and maybe this is what he needs. No friends, no family aside from his grandparents. Having to start over might just set him right. My parents are willing to keep him until he's 18, but think we're too emotionally charged to be making this decision now. What he did was vile, and he deserves a harsh punishment for what he did to his sister. However, I don't think the punishment issued fits the crime. You can't just throw your son away, and you can come back from this. It will take a lot of therapy for all of you, but it can happen. I honestly don't know how to judge this post though. Everybody sucks here. I love that you have your daughter's back and apply serious consequences for your son. What I don't love is that you didn't mention how he reacted to the aftermath of what he has done and the consequences. I also think it is an overreaction to permanently disown your son and cut him from your life. He is still your son. Yes, terrible mistake, but still a minor and still your son. You should be working with him and not just be like this. So yes, let him live with his grandparents, but work on a way to rebuild your own, not your daughter's, relationship with him. Call, let him volunteer work, something. You're the a-hole. You don't kick children out instead of parenting them. You're the a-hole. He's your son and he's a kid. Kids make mistakes. Adults make mistakes too. You've effectively disowned your kid instead of just teaching them a lesson. If you continue doing what you're doing, don't be surprised if your son keeps up no contact when he's older and wants nothing to do with you. Would I be the a-hole if I took my son and his friends out for his birthday instead of my wife and stepdaughters? I am 42, have 3 kids, a son Isaac, 12, almost 13, with my ex, who's no longer in the picture, and twin stepdaughters from wife's previous relationship, Emma and Ava, 7. Isaac's 13th birthday is coming up next week, and he said that he wants to go to the movies and asked if he could bring 2 friends along. I agreed, and we planned out a day of fun, arcade, pizza, and a movie. They were all activities that I know my son and his friends, nerdy middle school boys, would enjoy. When I told my wife about our plans, she suggested that we should have a family outing instead and proposed a local kiddie play place that my stepdaughters apparently love. I said that Isaac and his friends would be very disappointed and that he wouldn't have fun at a kiddie play place. She tried to convince me that Isaac could still have fun because there was an arcade, 2 claw machines, a pinball table, and a small DDR machine. She also said that since he sees his friends at school every day, family time should be prioritized over friends. I told her that it was unfair to force Isaac to spend his birthday at a kiddie play place instead of with his friends. She accused me of favoritism and of not loving my stepdaughters as much as Isaac. This hit me pretty hard because I grew up with a stepfather who neglected me in favor of his own kids, and I've been trying my hardest to be the father figure I never had. I've been spiraling down a rabbit hole of doubt about my own choices, and for the sake of my own sanity, would I be the a-hole? Say, I would never ask the girls to spend their birthday doing something Isaac wanted to do, and you should show the same respect. Also, she's gaslighting the f*** out of you, and I'm betting it's not the first time. You would not be the a-hole. Ironically, if you did go along with your wife's idea, you would be showing favoritism to your stepdaughters over your son. Stand your ground. Your wife is emotionally manipulating you, not the a-hole. Play place is not somewhere a 13-year-old lad wants to take his friends for his birthday. It's his birthday, not the daughter's. As much as I understand the wanting to do family things, you can do that on another day. Not the a-hole, but shouldn't you be concerned that your wife is neglecting your son in favor of her own kids? It seems like she's accusing you of doing what she's actually doing by trying to force Isaac into the kiddie play place for his birthday. Is this a pattern for her? Not the a-hole? Your wife is showing favoritism to her daughters. This is Isaac's birthday celebration, not Emma and Ava's. And does she know about your issues with your step-parent? Because if she does, then she's a bigger a-hole for using it against you. Am I the a-hole for taking up 2 seats on a bus? I ride the bus because I can't afford a car, insurance, gas, etc. I'm 19F and I live in the US for context. A couple days ago, I was on a bus that wasn't that busy, not empty, but there were multiple unused seats and no one had to stand. I'd just gone shopping and had heavy bags that were hard to carry and hardly fit in front of my legs. So I sat in one seat and placed my bags on the seat next to me, essentially taking up 2 seats on my own, since it wasn't crowded when I got on and didn't see an issue. And like I said, the bags were super heavy and hard to carry, so I wanted to set them down. The bus ride was kind of long, and as it went on, more and more people got on the bus. It eventually got pretty crowded to the point where some people had to stand up. I didn't ever move my bag or offer a seat to someone. In my experience, most people don't want to sit next to strangers anyway, and a lot of the time, people will end up standing instead of sitting in an empty seat next to someone they don't know. Also, no one said anything to me. At the last stop, ended at the bus station where pretty much everyone was getting off, someone passive-aggressively told me, "You could have moved your bag and not been inconsiderate and rude. Everyone wants to sit, not just you," or something along those lines. I didn't really respond because I didn't know what to say. The person who said that never asked me to move my stuff, and if they did, I probably would have. So I don't understand how I was being rude. They could have asked during the ride instead of insulting me after it was already done. Buses are also generally first come, first serve, so I think my behavior was normal. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. If there's no seat, move your freaking bag, lol. How can you ride it and think you aren't? You're the a-hole. You don't wait for someone to ask you to do the right thing. You're the a-hole. Once the bus was getting more crowded, to the point where people were standing, you should have moved your bags. You shouldn't need to be asked to do so. It's just a common courtesy. You're the a-hole. You saw the bus was full and didn't move your bags. That's exactly what rude a-holes do. Am I the a-hole for forcing my daughter to learn sign language? I, 49F, recently married my husband, 52M, who has a deaf 7-year-old daughter. She communicates solely via ASL. For some background, my daughter, 17F, is generally very non-problematic teenager. She does amazing in school and has never caused any problems other than regular teenage hormone stuff. However, she doesn't like my husband and stepdaughter. She's not outwardly rude, but basically ignores their existence. Skipped stepdaughter's birthday party, doesn't engage in anything other than basic small talk with my husband. I did try to do family activities together to have the bond and all, but I stopped pushing it when it didn't happen, and as long as she's not being outwardly rude or harmful to them, I can't exactly punish her for not liking them. Now, since my relationship with my now husband started getting serious, I started taking ASL classes and am now basically as fluent as a hearing person can be. My daughter, however, never made an effort, which is okay since she technically has no responsibility towards her. However, recently my daughter has started watching Stepdaughter paid when we aren't around, which changes things. In my opinion, since she is now spending time in which she is responsible for a young child, she needs to learn at least basic communication. When I brought it up to her, she outright refused to make any effort at all. I tried recommending YouTube videos, but she refused to try learning even a couple words. She's saying that she's not responsible for my choice to be in the life of a disabled child. This issue has also been causing a lot of problems in my marriage. My husband confided in me that he's starting to feel uncomfortable with his young daughter living in with someone who is so cold. She refuses to even make the most basic effort or engage with her at all. He has brought up that he is considering divorce due to his concerns about how stepdaughter will be affected by this. So given all that, I had to finally put my foot down. I told my daughter that we have a disabled person living in our household for the foreseeable future, and if she wants to live here for college, graduating next month, she has to at least learn basic ASL. She doesn't have to like her stepfather and stepsister, nor does she have to hang out with them, but she has to have the ability to communicate with her for the sake of safety and basic decency. I made it clear that if she chooses not to, she is welcome to live in a dorm that I will pay for. It's just that living in our house, that is also my stepdaughter's house, my husband and I paid for the house equally. Comes with basic rules. Well, my daughter hasn't spoken to me for 7 days, so it's about time I ask. Am I the a-hole? Everybody sucks here except the youngling. Your daughter is the a-hole because she misplaces her frustration and emotional discomfort of your new marriage on her stepsister, the last person on earth who it should be put on. Maybe she even resents that you made her watch, paid or not. Your husband is the a-hole because he threatens you with divorce over this, instead of talking and asking your daughter how she feels. Or consider a different babysitter, he pulls out the nuclear option to your relationship. You are the a-hole because you throw your daughter under the bus for marriage's sake and then threaten to kick her out instead of being a mother and trying to understand her and offer her a bailout, aka a different babysitter. Edit, disagreeing with my POV is fine, but you don't need to DM me insults. Info, when does she turn 18? He has brought up that he is considering divorce due to his concerns about how stepdaughter will be affected by this. I'm gonna divorce you unless you kick out your 17-year-old daughter or make her learn sign language is an ugly ultimatum. Daughter no longer watches stepdaughter. Problem solved. I don't think trying to force this is going to end well. I think it's no big deal to learn a few basics in another language, but that's just me. Maybe he should have thought about this / checked before marriage. Gonna go with you're the a-hole. This isn't her marriage, her stepdaughter, or her responsibility. Obvious you're the a-hole. You get it right in the first part of this post when you point out that your daughter doesn't like, not does she have any responsibility towards your husband and stepdaughter. It's only when your husband threatens you with consequences as you start f***ing up. Yeah, your daughter definitely shouldn't be babysitting her without knowing ASL, so find a different babysitter. You threatening to kick her out of her own home because you are actively choosing your stepdaughter over her is disgusting. You're the a-hole for having presumably years to see your daughter doesn't consider your new family to be her family. She's allowed to be indifferent to what are essentially some random roommates you've decided to move in. Not everyone has the skill or time to learn a second language, and you've decided that in her senior year, when she's so busy with all that entails, she needs to learn an entirely new skill to satisfy these random roommates of yours. Otherwise, you're permanently kicking her out of her home and your life. Get a whiteboard for them to communicate with each other in emergencies, and then deal with the fact that you've done a terrible job blending these two families. Am I the a-hole for not giving my coworker my day off because I want to play a video game? Okay, so anyone in the video game world knows that next week the new Legend of Zelda game comes out after like 5+ years of waiting. I'm a massive fan. When the release date was revealed, I immediately requested PTO for that date as I plan on staying home that day and enjoying the new game. What I didn't realize was that the day I asked off of is Friday before Mother's Day. My company has had to limit the request off for that date now, as many people have been asking off for it. I had previously told some of my coworkers I was planning on staying home to play the game, and I guess word got around because one of my coworkers asked me after work to give her my PTO so she can travel for Mother's Day. I explained to her that I requested this day off months ago for a specific reason and I wasn't really willing to change it. She got pretty upset with me, claiming I care more about video games than family and whatnot. I honestly don't really care about her not being able to travel because I feel like if this was an important date, then you would have requested off early, like I did. Anyways, I firmly told her no, but she told some of my other coworkers and they are pissed at me and calling me an a-hole for not giving up the date. Am I the a-hole? Edited typos. Ugh, this one's gonna be ugly. I would have told her I care more about my family than video games, your family not so much. Her family's not your responsibility and she should have planned better. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Same goes for any other holiday. I'm child-free by choice, and people always seem to think that means I should be the one working holidays. It doesn't matter if the reason you have the day off is for a video game, it's your day off, enjoy it. Birthday week, Mother's Day week. People need to calm down. Not the a-hole. Mother's Day has been on the calendar all year. Hell, they could have figured out when Mother's Day 2023 was last year. Enjoy the game. Not the a-hole. You're allowed to care more about your own happiness than about her happiness. Oh, I guess it wasn't that ugly after all. Silly me. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my neighbors after they took a package off my porch? I, 38F, live alone in the house I grew up in. It was left to me by my mother after she passed away 10 years ago. About 4 years ago, a couple about my age moved in next door, and we've pretty much been at odds since day one. There have been numerous times and issues that we've disagreed on. I have 3 cats that I sometimes let out into my backyard. My neighbors have a dog that would jump the 5-foot chain link fence separating our yards to chase my cats. I told my neighbors if I caught their dog doing it again, I would call the cops. They actually had the audacity to ask if I would be willing to split the cost of a taller privacy fence instead of, training your dog not to jump the fence. Obviously, I refused as I wasn't the one causing the problem and the fence is technically on their property anyway. They ended up putting in a taller fence. Then they asked me to split the cost of taking down an ash tree that was on their property. It'd become infested with some bug that killed the tree and dead limbs were falling on their driveway. They had the city come out and the survey guy said the tree was actually about 10% on my property. I told them the tree was theirs and if they want it down, they'll have to pay for it because I don't have a problem with it. Needless to say, we're not not friends. They've also thrown some loud, late-night parties that include bonfires and loud music that I had to call the cops for as well. I'm currently out of town visiting family for a couple weeks. I have a friend who comes over to my house every day to check on my cats and check for mail and packages. I have medication for my cats that are delivered regularly. I got a notification the other day that some packages were delivered, so I texted my friend to let them know. But before my friend could get there, I got a notification from my Ring doorbell, pulled up the live feed, and saw my neighbor on my patio. I asked him what he was doing, and he said a package of theirs got delivered to my house by mistake, so he was just grabbing it. I told him to leave and that my friend would bring over his package when she comes over. He said he's not waiting for that and tried to leave. I told him that if he takes my package from my porch, I'm calling the cops. He shoved the package in front of the camera and said, "That's my name and address, OP. I'm taking my package." Then he walked away. So I called the police and told them that he stole a package from me and I have video proof. They said they would investigate. When my friends got there a little later, the police were talking to my neighbors. The police must have left while she was checking on my cats because when she went to leave, it was just my neighbors outside. The husband yelled at her to tell me that I'm a huge a-hole and that I need to take the police off speed dial and let them deal with more important stuff instead of using them as my own personal problem-solving service. Oh, this one's gonna be ugly. You're the a-hole. I get the fence thing. You could have pitched in on a tree just to chill things out. Calling the police about the parties without talking to them about it first is very a-hole. If it was his package and it had their name and address on it, calling the cops on them was also an a-hole move. You're officially an a-hole neighbor now. You're the a-hole, sure. You don't get along, but stop calling the cops for trivial matters. Do you actually think they were stealing a package? Or were you just trying to continue this grudge and be petty? You're the a-hole. They sound like absolutely awful neighbors, and under any circumstances I'd side with you in a second, but you called the cops and accused them of stealing their own package. They didn't steal from you. They fetched something that belonged to them off your porch. And while yes, I suppose they were trespassing, if you get medication delivered, then you know that sometimes packages can't wait. And perhaps this was a situation like that, and it doesn't sound like you cared to listen to anything they had to explain. If you want to be seen as the better person than your a-hole neighbors, then you have to actually be the better person. You're the a-hole. You sound like the miserable neighbor in this scenario, not them. Yep, there we go. Get owned, neighbor. Stupid idiot. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that my brother didn't invite my son over for a slumber party? I have a 10-year-old son, Julian, who is pretty close with my nephew and his cousin, Parker. You can't separate them when they ate together. I live 2 blocks away from my brother and his wife and Parker. I asked my brother on Friday if Parker wanted Julian to spend the weekend at his house, since it was a long weekend. My brother said that they had already made plans, and I asked what plans, and maybe Parker would like to have Julian to tag along, so he has a playmate. He said it was something for his wife. On Saturday, I found out that my brother lied. Parker actually had a slumber party, and I found out because I saw them all walking to Denny's yesterday morning. I called my brother out, and he said he didn't want my son to feel left out, so he lied. He said it didn't feel right to have an innocent 10-year-old around a bunch of 12-year-old boys because they'd eat him alive. I said that was bullshit, and he needs to text Julius right now and ask if he'd like to join this weekend slumber party because he'll be crushed if he finds out that he was left out. He said no. So I ended up calling our mom, who lives with my brother, and explained the situation. That caused a lot of drama between her and my brother and my sister-in-law, but my son got invited and declined because he is holding out to go to the aquarium. My brother was livid, and I said that if he had asked in the first place, then none of this would have happened and there would be no drama. You're the a-hole. Your son is not entitled to an invite, and no one likes someone trying to force someone to invite you. Info. Why do you think your 10-year-old son should be invited to a 12-year-old slumber party? Why do you think your son should spend 3-day weekend at your brother's house? Why did you run to your mommy about an issue that did not involve her? You're the a-hole. Your son acts more mature than you do. You're the a-hole. There's a huge maturity difference between 10 and 12, so your brother's decision to exclude Julian was reasonable. You were wildly out of line to call your mother and start drama. You're the a-hole. Your nephew was allowed to have his own friend group. Stop micromanaging your brother. You're the a-hole. You wanted a weekend free from Julian and got mad that your brother didn't want to go along with it. You are not entitled to push your kid off on other people, nor is your brother obligated to include your son in everything he does with his kid. Don't hold your breath for that aquarium invitation. Am I the a-hole for swearing at a coworker for contacting me while on Do Not Disturb? I have a coworker who comes to me for assistance. That's fine. However, when I'm on Do Not Disturb in Teams, he will send multiple emails or call me on my phone. It's never anything important, just minor stuff that could wait until my meetings are over. I've talked to him 3 or 4 times, telling him that he needs to either wait or if he must email me, it has to stop at 1 and I'll reply to him when I can. He's sent emails every few minutes asking for an answer, and if I decline his call, he'll call right back. He's been talked to by management about this. Last week, I sent him a terse email when he emailed me several times during an important meeting. Stop. I've told you I'll get back to you when I can. If I'm on Do Not Disturb, that doesn't mean unless your name is Joe. This is the last time I'll be polite. Finally, he emailed me again on Monday multiple times. So I replied with something along the lines of, do you know how to fucking read? Have you listened to a goddamn thing I've said? Do Not Disturb means leave me the fuck alone. We've had polite conversations about this, but I'm gonna be more blunt. Off. You're actively hindering my work. Note, he's not trying to bait me. He just thinks he should be able to get an answer right away from a person. He and a few coworkers claim I was an asshole and out of line for swearing at him and being demeaning. Am I the a-hole? Everybody sucks here. Your correct course of action should have been to CC his his manager on one of the multiple emails you get from him, explaining that you've asked him to stop calling you on your phone and sending you multiple emails demanding an answer when you're in meetings. If you cuss out your coworkers, expect a call from HR or talking to yourself about professional conduct in the workplace. A-hole plus a-hole equals 2 a-holes, not 1 a-hole and the one guy in the right when it comes to a professional setting. Everybody sucks here. A colleague is annoying, so rather than take it to their supervisor, I started swearing at them and sent them an incredibly aggressive email. Both of you are in the wrong here. He's guilty of not being patient, but you're being abusive and hostile over a comparatively petty annoyance. Your response is wildly disproportionate to the offense, and if he's sending you multiple emails while you're on D&D, take it to his supervisor and let them deal with it. That's literally their job. Now you've just made yourself look like an aggressive a-hole and potentially created more problems for yourself. It might have been satisfying to blow up at him, but it wasn't helpful and could very easily bite you in the ass. Everybody sucks here. Your coworker sounds like a nightmare, honestly. But you're the a-hole because you responded in a way that turned an inconvenience into a hostile work environment. What are you doing checking your emails during a meeting anyway? That's on you. If you're annoyed by the notification sound, then turn off your notifications. You can prevent calls by taking your landline off the hook or setting up D&D on your mobile phone. Am I the a-hole for neutering a cat that was clearly owned? I run a TNR program for feral cats. Non-profit. I catch all cats and get them the medical attention they need myself out of my own pocket. I love helping them. A lot of the cats are not able to be rehomed, so I fix them and release them, get them their shots and hope for the best. I'm not a large-scale operation. Recently, I was called to an area overrun with orange cats. They were everywhere and I mostly ended up handing it over to the professionals. I did, however, manage to grab 3 very sweet cats. 2 were terrified, skinny, a little beaten up, but overall friendly, and the third one was a little gent. He was tubby, well-groomed, fish pattern collar, the works. My plan was to find his parents and drop him off with a warning to keep him in due to large amounts of traps being set. Then the little bastard sprayed the inside of my car to the freaking max. So apparently he wasn't fixed. I couldn't really tell, long hair, and assumed he was, so left my covers off. Big mistake. I debated taking him home or taking him to get neutered with the rest. He was an indoor-outdoor cat, indicated by his collar tag, and with so many strays, I'm certain some were carrying his genetics. Ultimately, I took him in with me and got him neutered. No chip, so I called the number on his tag and informed them where their cat was and gave them time slots to pick him up or have him dropped off. The owners went ballistic. They were cursing at me and came to collect their cat not 20 minutes later, called me a kidnapper, blamed me for their child having nightmares, scared over their cat going missing. I tried to explain that he needed to be fixed if he was going to be outside, but they didn't want to know. They said I should have called immediately regardless. I spoke to my rescue friend who said I was in the wrong, even though we know we are technically in the right. We didn't have the legal ground to do it, and it wasn't my decision to make. I did apologize, but I blocked their numbers. The mom is flaming me on Facebook and DMing people I know. I have a duty to care for stray cats. Me knowing an unneutered male was roaming free and not doing anything about it was a concern for said stray cats. Things are still tense between my rescue buddy and I don't completely disagree. I know I crossed the line, even if it was for the greater good. People are finding out and taking sides, so I'm not sure who to really believe was right here. So am I the a-hole? Holy. You are the a-hole. You did kidnap their cat and made a superbly arrogant decision to have him neutered without the owner's permission. You can judge them all they want for letting their cat outside. The first thing you have done was to call the cat's people and ask, hey, I found your cat. Did you know he was outside? That's basic due diligence right there. Translated, what decent people who are not assholes regularly do. How Yvette decided to neuter the cat means you have taken off the collar and obscured the owner's information, or they would not have done it without their permission. You just made yourself hella actionable, legally. You don't know if they were planning to breed the cat and he just happened to get out. Everybody sucks here. The owners for letting an intact pet outside unsupervised to breed, and you for having a surgical medical procedure done to an animal that you knew had owners without the owner's consent. Regardless of the morality of allowing pets to contribute to the stray population, for which the owner is an a-hole, making medical decisions for someone else's pet makes you a massive a-hole. Everyone sucks. Info, you said the third one was a little gent, he was tubby, well-groomed, fish pattern collar, the works. My plan was to find his parents and drop him off with a warning to keep him in due to the large amounts of traps being set. Then the little bastard sprayed the inside of my car to the freaking max. This really makes it sound like you changed your mind out of spite. Can you be absolutely sure you didn't? Everybody sucks here. You should have taken the cat back when you knew it had an owner, and ultimately it wasn't your decision to have it neutered. But that should have had their cat neutered and not let it outside in an area with feral strays. As someone who works in cat rescue, I do find their ranting about the fear of the possibility of the cat not coming back for one night a bit rich, given all the other awful things that can happen to indoor-outdoor cats outside in North America. I do know in the UK this practice is less risky and more common. That fear about their cat not coming back for one night probably won't change their behavior, and they will keep letting them out. Not the a-hole. They are irresponsible pet owners and are endangering the community by having an unneutered male cat about. It's unethical and should be illegal. Am I the a-hole for not hosting a party my wife planned earlier this week when I had planned long ago to only play video games this weekend? So Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out today on the Switch, and I had been looking looking forward to and planning for this game for years. Zelda has always had a place in my heart where I can escape the mundane of daily life, especially as an adult who works a full-time job, pays the bills, etc. No kids in the household, just me and my wife. Starting 6 or so months ago, I told my wife that when this game came out, I would essentially become a hermit and go into a hole for the entire weekend of its release. I would eat, sleep, and breathe Zelda. I continued to reiterate to her my plans every time the topic came up, and even more so as the game got closer to the release. I took time off of work as to put this on my work calendar as soon as she knew the launch date. Fast forward to earlier this week, and I reminded her again that I would essentially disappear this weekend to do what I want to do, which is to play the new game all weekend. She then plans a movie night with a bunch of neighbors for tonight on launch day. I made sure to clean up the house, do the dishes, and even did like 4 loads of laundry and reorganized the linen closet in preparation for this weekend. The time for the party rolled around, and I took a break from playing, made all the popcorn, and set everything up in our home theater for her, and then went back to play my game. As guests showed up, I welcomed them in and showed them the way to the theater room and continued to play my game. When the movie was over, I greeted them again as they left, and then I helped clean up the kitchen on another short break. Fast forward to now, my wife is mad at me for playing my game downstairs while she hosted the movie night alone. She said it was weird and stupid that I couldn't carve out a couple hours for this movie night. It's just a stupid video game, she is saying. I reminded her that I had my plans for this weekend months ago, and that what I did doesn't contradict what I've been telling her I would do for months now. So am I the a-hole for playing my new game while she hosted the movie night? Not the a-hole. She arranged this when she had known for months what your plans were, and you did a lot of preparation for her event, took breaks to speak to her guests, and even helped clean up after her event. She's being utterly unreasonable. She said this was weird and stupid that I couldn't carve out a couple hours for this movie night. I'm afraid that this was done deliberately. It's just a stupid video game, she is saying. Yes, deliberately. Not the a-hole. I'll be the minority by saying regardless of what you were doing, you already planned it and told her said plans. You also did help with the party, so it's not like you didn't do anything. It's just the stupid video game, she's saying. Tell her the alternative was just the stupid movie. She openly disrespected your wishes and your hobby, then had the audacity to be mad at you? I would have a long talk with her. This does not sound good, and maybe something else is happening. Not the a-hole. Your wife trying to pull some shit. You did your part and gave ample warning. Am I the a-hole for not letting my girlfriend wear a bikini in front of my family? So me, 26M, and my girlfriend, 22F, have been dating for around 2 years now. We've had our ups and downs, but overall we have a great relationship and I definitely see a future together. We really love and respect each other and connect well, but the thing is we come from different backgrounds. I come from a Muslim background. I'm not that religious though, and she is white. However, we have still made it work and our similarities are much more than our differences. Now my GF does like wearing a bit short clothing when out and about, which used to bother me at first and made me uncomfortable, and we did have a few minor fights over it, but eventually I came to terms with it. However, recently an embarrassing situation happened. There was a pool party at my cousin's house and my parents were there too. I had recently introduced my GF to my parents as well, so this was a good time to meet the family and relatives. I specifically told her to please pack something more on the modest side as my family would be there, and most women usually don't wear such revealing stuff in our culture. She didn't give much of a response and just nodded. But what did I see in the pool? Her wearing a 2-piece bikini. Kinda cheeky bottoms too. Even 1 piece would have been better, but nah. She went all in this time. She was probably the one dressed most immodestly. No one said anything, but afterwards I was so embarrassed I couldn't show my face to my parents at all. I did talk to her about it and scolded her a bit, and she told me she can wear whatever the hell she wants whenever she wants. I couldn't say anything afterwards. We've been quiet to each other for a while now, but slowly making up now. Am I the a-hole? You are the a-hole. She can indeed wear whatever she wants, and it's inappropriate for you to dictate otherwise or scold her about it. I'm not that religious though, then proceeds to act like someone that religious. This doesn't sound religious to me, though it is cultural. My family isn't religious at all, and we don't wear cheeky bikinis around each other. Those bikinis are for romantic vacations. Info! Why did you start dating someone who you wanted to change? You are the a-hole. You scolded her. What the frick? She's a grown woman, not your child, and she's 1000% correct. She can wear whatever the hell she wants to. It's her body, not yours. Let her. You can't let her do anything, as again, she's a grown woman. Everybody sucks here. Not true. Contrary to what you posted, it does not sound like either of you respect the other. She should have been more conservative out of respect for you, and you should not be embarrassed by her. Cross-cultural relationships are hard. Wishing you luck. No, this guy just sucks. He is the asshole for sure. Am I the a-hole for dropping out of my cousin's wedding party after a prank? Throw away. My F26 cousin F29 got engaged a few months ago and asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was so excited to accept. Her sister F32 is the maid of honor, and there are 3 other bridesmaids, and the date is set for April 2024. On April 1st of this year, she sent a PDF to the bridesmaid group chat that made me really angry. It was a list of wedding party responsibilities, rules, and regulations. It included a picture of the bridesmaid dresses that we'd be wearing. They were hideous, and she told us that we have to pay $800 for them, and they only went up to a size 8, so anyone bigger than that would need to lose weight before the wedding. That made me so angry because I wear a size 10, but also she's like a size 12, so even fatter than me. Other ridiculous things she added: none of us were allowed to be tanner than her for the wedding, so she told us that none of us could spend significant time in the sun for the next year. She wanted to have longer hair than all of her bridesmaids, so she said we'd all have to cut our hair to our shoulders or shorter. She wanted to do a choreographed dance with all of us and insisted that we go to 3-hour dance classes with her every Sunday until the wedding a year away. She said that she wanted her bachelorette party to be in Paris and that we would all need to chip in $3K. There were more, but I was so angry I stopped reading and muted the group chat for a few hours. I was so livid and hurt that I decided to drop out of the wedding party, but I didn't say anything right away. The next day, I checked the group chat again, and everyone else had been chatting about how funny the bride's prank was. Apparently, at the bottom of the PDF, it said April Fool's, but I hadn't read that far because I was so mad. Everyone else thought it was hilarious, but it still really rubbed me the wrong way. I reached out to the bride to tell her how much this hurt my feelings, and she did apologize, but even though it's been almost 2 months, I'm still really angry. I decided this week that I no longer want to be a bridesmaid because of the mean-spirited prank and told my cousin. Now she's really hurt and angry, and the maid of honor and other bridesmaids and some of the family members are blowing up my phone saying that I'm overreacting to an innocent prank. But I don't believe the pranks are only funny if the recipients find them funny, and I definitely didn't. So am I the a-hole? You are the a-hole. Even if it wasn't the best prank in the world, it was still a harmless prank done on April Fool's Day. With the mention that this is a prank in the document itself, no one specifically targeted, it was a group prank. You didn't like the prank, and that happens to be fine by itself, but the whole 2 months after a grudge big enough, you are dropping out of the wedding out of spite? That is some serious overreaction here, especially for a group prank where you were not specifically targeted. Yeah, I'm going with you're the a-hole here. You didn't read it properly and leapt to righteous anger. A prank requires a trick is played on someone, or it's not a prank. You didn't read to the end and therefore missed the part making it clear it was a prank. I would suggest you're pissed at yourself for falling for something with April Fool's written on it. Perhaps speak to someone about your anger issues. Something so ridiculous is something to laugh at and not get angry at. I was twitching when I read the word prank because usually on here, pranks are code for bullying, but this one, honestly, that's pretty good. I was actually chuckling and it said April Fool's right on the PDF. She didn't let it go on for a while? Come on, you're ridiculous. You are the a-hole. You are the a-hole. It was so outrageous that it was obviously a joke.
Am I the a-hole for being embarrassed of my girlfriend's cosplay? My 25 male girlfriend, 24, had a double mastectomy 5 years ago. She had breast cancer and thankfully made a full recovery. Unlike a lot of women, she didn't have any reconstructive surgery. This was before I met her. I'm a big anime nerd, and last weekend I invited her to a small anime con with me. She's seen a few episodes of my favorite shows, but she's not into anime. She does like cosplay though, and she works seasonally as an SFX artist at a haunted house near us. So when I asked her to go to the con with me, she asked if she could cosplay, and I said sure. She got very excited and said I was going to love her costume. So I'll admit I thought she was gonna do something sexy for me. Well, not exactly. The day of the convention comes and she shows up at my house cosplaying Dabi from MHA, specifically a look he has later in the manga. It's a long white coat over white pants, no shirt. Her entire chest was exposed and she'd obviously spent hours applying burn makeup. She has short hair that she dyes constantly. This time she bleached it white and dyed a few red streaks. I wasn't expecting her to show up without a shirt. Her burn scar makeup only covered half her chest, so you could clearly see her mastectomy scar. It wasn't a very attractive costume, especially since she'd gone all out with the scars and made them look raised and kind of realistic. We went to the con, and while a lot of people came up to take photos with her, I noticed several others looking at her chest. That evening, she said I'd been quiet all day, and I honestly told her I was a little embarrassed that she was flaunting her mastectomy scar like that. She got mad and said she was making the best of her situation and said I was being insensitive, and she's been distant ever since. I'm starting to feel guilty. Am I the a-hole? I'm gonna say yes, you are the a-hole, but because you do feel a little bit guilty about how you acted, you're not a complete a-hole. Still weird though that you're getting embarrassed because your girlfriend is trying to have fun. Oh, how dare your girlfriend not have a pretty little cosplay outfit. Obviously, she has not gotten the message that her only worth is if she caters to the male gaze. Yeah, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Jesus, she went through cancer and a double mastectomy and you're crying about being embarrassed? Please break up with her so she can find someone that's not an a-hole. This is why women have such a hard time being cosplayers. Guys are always assuming they're doing it to be sexy for them. Your girlfriend did something scary and brave for herself. Your reaction is disgusting. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You wanted a sexy cosplay girl and you didn't get it. So now you're all upset. You're embarrassed of her scars that saved her life. She deserves better. Would I be the a-hole for spraying some kid with my garden hose daily after he walks all over our lawn? I, 37 male, live with my wife, 37 female, and son and daughter, 9 and 11 respectively. Recently, there has been this kid who comes by our house after playing soccer and either rides his bike or walks over the lawn with his cleats on his way home. It started out as me giving him stern looks whenever I saw him, then it slowly progressed to me asking him to just go around. The last time I asked him to stop, he made a point to stomp extra hard and twist his feet into the grass to piss me off. off. Since then, I've just been hosing him. The first time I sprayed him with the hose, he ran off, but then for some reason he just started standing there while I hose him, like he enjoys it. It's now progressed to me sitting on my lawn chair, pointing my hose at him, and him just staring at me while he does so. Sometimes we even make small talk. I'm not gonna lie, it started off as a really bitter relationship, but I've actually gotten to know the kid quite well. We talk for maybe 15 to 20 minutes every day, and he doesn't seem to mind being hosed down after sweating hard playing soccer. He comes by daily and we just shoot the shit while I hose him and he stands there for a bit. Wife told me I need to stop. Even after I explained it to her, she said I'm making us look like childish idiots. I guess I could stop, but honestly, it's really funny waiting for him to come by and I see no harm in it. Would I be the a-hole? Ooh, I'm not entirely sure. It's like kind of a rogue element that the kid just stands there and lets you hose him down, so I don't really know. Okay, this is hilarious. I was going to say you were the a-hole and get offense, but I see nothing wrong with what's going on now. Not a-hole. I mean, the kid sounds like kind of an a-hole, but I guess not an a-hole. Kid is obviously deprived of attention and is weirdly getting something bizarrely meaningful from this incredibly strange relationship. Has he stopped trying to damage your lawn? Get another chair. Ask the kid to sit with you. That kid rather gets hosed down by a stranger than go home. Something's up. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He's stopped stomping on your lawn, but is still seeking you out as someone who will genuinely listen to him whilst you cool him off after training. The kid is showing his gratitude and you're feeding that gratitude. It's a sweet relationship, and your wife should stop worrying about what everyone else is thinking and see it for what it is. Alright, so in conclusion, it's just weird all around. Am I the a-hole for banning my sister-in-law from my house over tomato sauce? I, 28 female, have an older brother, 32 male. He is married to sister-in-law, 33 female. I get along with her well, except for this one point. If you don't keep an eye on her, she will get into the kitchen and add seasonings to whatever is cooking. She thinks she is fixing stuff, but not all foods need turmeric in it. This Saturday, I received 40 pounds of tomatoes. It took me the whole weekend to turn it into a sauce that I was planning to can. I can it plain, then add whatever seasonings and herbs it needs, depending on the recipe. They came to take a bag of spare clothes for one of their kids, and in the 5 minutes it took me to get it, she managed to get into the kitchen, add salt, pepper, turmeric, olive oil, garlic powder, and Italian herbs to all 5 of the pots that were simmering on the stove. And when I asked her what she was doing, she had the audacity to say, "This sauce needed some taste. I added it for you." Like I've never told her to not touch what I was cooking before. I was so angry that I knew I couldn't be calm talking with her. So I simply walked to my brother, told him to take the clothes and his wife, and that she is no longer welcome in my house. She had followed me, was shocked, started apologizing, but I just ignored her. I added that he should come by tomorrow to take the sauce his wife ruined, because otherwise it would be thrown away, and that I expected 40 pounds of replacement tomatoes. They left. He came back with the tomatoes, an apology letter from her, and apology carrot cake, my fave. But I told him that I stand by my decision. Now my parents got involved. Since I am the one that usually hosts, and since she is not allowed in my house, I told them to make alternate plans for Memorial Day. My husband says that I am in the right, but my parents say that my reaction is way overblown. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Since there seems to be some confusion, I am not planning to host for Memorial Day and not invite her. I said I am not hosting. My parents or my brother should host, and I will attend as a guest. I might be angry, but I don't want her excluded. I'm gonna say you're sort of an a-hole just for the reaction, but overall not. Just because you're not trying to exclude her, you just don't want her coming over and ruining your stuff like she just did. If you don't keep an eye on her, she will get into the kitchen and add seasonings to whatever is cooking. She managed to get into the kitchen, add salt, pepper, turmeric, olive oil, garlic powder, and Italian herbs to all 5 of the pots that were simmering on the stove. Like, WTF? This is so boundary disrespecting, disrespectful, and insulting to what you're cooking. And it wasn't even for her. Not the a-hole for being furious. I do think she learned her lesson though. Not the a-hole. It is never okay to add something to someone's food without their consent or knowledge. Who the heck walks into someone else's house and seasons 5 different pots? Not the a-hole. Yeah, the fact that it was 5 separate pots and she did it to all 5 is kind of insane. Not the a-hole. I'm so glad you discovered that she ruined a day's work before you canned that mess. Who does that? I don't know that I'd invite her back into my house again either. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my boyfriend's food after he ruined my food photos? I have an Instagram account dedicated to photos and short videos of food from local restaurants in my city. I don't turn meals into a whole photo shoot production when I go out, but I like to snap a few photos of everything as it comes out. I've got about 1,000 followers. It's just a hobby for me, but I have made friends with some other bloggers, and we like to go out and get pics together and try new restaurants. I prefer doing this with my foodie girls because my boyfriend hates it and will go out of his way to take a big bite of food or mess up his plate with his fork before I can snap any pics. And he rolls his eyes when I take pics of my own food, so I pretty much stopped bothering when we went out together. Money has been tight lately because of some medical bills, so I haven't been able to go out to eat with my foodie girls, and the infrequent date with my boyfriend is the only chance I get to eat out. I had to sit him down and have a, look, just let me enjoy things conversation with him and told him I was going to take pics of my own food when we went out, and could he please just not be immature about it? And since we alternate who pays for dates, I told him I would appreciate it if he could spare the 30 seconds for me to snap a pic of the appetizer plus his meal on nights that I was paying, and I got sort of a half-hearted, do whatever you want confirmation. Sunday was my turn to pay, and he let me take a pic of the appetizer with minimal fussing. But then when the entrees came out, I went to snap a pic of his, and he messed it up with his fork. Then he reached over and stirred up my pasta to also ruin the photo of my own meal. I was so pissed off by that I refused to pay his half at the end of the meal, which pissed him off because he said he wouldn't have ordered a cocktail if he knew that I was gonna skip my turn. He says I owe him one because I don't get to just decide not to pay according to our agreement after we've already ordered. Oh my god, what a baby! Like, first of all, no, you don't get to play the we had an agreement game after you purposefully ruined the thing she wanted to do. You're not an a-hole, but your boyfriend is a piece of work, not the a-hole. Why are you even dating someone who clearly has no respect for you or your hobbies? Dump this a-hole, not the a-hole. I don't get people who go out of their way to actively ruin other people's fun. He totally could have just started eating his food, but to mess with yours is just not acceptable. I'm in a relationship where my boyfriend goes out of his way to make my sorry butt happy, drives to a special store to get just me ice cream, lactose intolerant, starts cooking at 8 p.m. on a Sunday because I'm hungry, etc. I, of course, do stuff for him too, but he is just the effing best. To me, a relationship has to beat being alone. Someone ruining my fun and peace doesn't cut it. You are not the a-hole. Your BF is an a-hole. Not only for deliberately messing up your meals, but also for ordering a cocktail just because he thought he wouldn't be the one paying for it. I would be reconsidering my relationship with someone so selfish and childish. Not the a-hole. It blows my mind that he is so utterly unwilling to do this one small thing that takes less than a minute, yet makes you very happy. He doesn't have to want to do it himself, but it is such a minor and easy thing to do. I can't imagine wanting to ruin my partner's enjoyment to make some kind of vague and useless point. At least we're all in agreement here that, your boyfriend sucks. Am I the a-hole for standing up during a Beyonce concert? So, I'm a huge Beyonce fan and have been my whole life, especially being a Houston, Texas native. This was my first time being able to afford a ticket to her show, and I'm currently living back and forth between Sweden and the States. I've never been to a concert in Sweden and was very shocked by how unlively the crowd was. No dancing or singing, really, from most people in my section. Closest non-GA to the stage. But I was out of my seat, singing and having a blast as soon as the show started, and a woman and her partner behind me asked me if I could sit down so they could be able to see. I assumed since she was starting the show with ballads, I was doing a bit much and apologized and sat. But once the energy picked back up, I was back up on my feet dancing. There were like 2 other people on my row doing the same. I honestly had the time of my life and even cried a bit. Ridiculous, I know. When the show was over and I turned to leave, the lady said, "You're not the only one who paid for this, you know. Is that how you act in your village?" And I was too stunned to say anything back. I could understand if this were an orchestra concert or something, but her latest album is focused on house music and the ballroom scene, which is very lively. This happened weeks back, but I can't even enjoy my memories of the experience because I keep getting this pit in my stomach, feeling like I ruined someone else's experience. Am I the a-hole? Ooh, I am not entirely sure, because this could be like a slight cultural divide, especially if this was a show in Sweden. I'd say not really the a-hole, because you're supposed to be having fun at a concert, but it's very dependent on culture, I suppose. You are the a-hole. You sang and danced to the concert as you do when in the States. That's fine when you're in the States, but you weren't in the States. You were in another country where it was clear to you from the start that people were sitting in their seats to watch. As soon as you keyed in on that everyone remained seated to watch, and you were the only one up and about, and someone asked you to sit early on, you should have sat your dance-happy self down and stayed seated to watch until such time as you saw everyone stand. If they never do, you stay seated. There are countries who watch concerts and sporting events in near complete silence. When in Rome. I see what you're saying here, but you could be a little nicer, because I don't know, especially a Beyonce concert, you don't want to, get up and move a little. You're the a-hole. By your own admission, it was obvious that other people were not behaving like you wanted to. The fact that it might be acceptable someplace else 8,000 miles away is irrelevant. You are the a-hole. I'm not from the US, but where I'm from, it's seen as extremely rude and selfish to stand up during a concert in front of people who are seated behind you. In my country, if you stand up in front of rows of seated people, a steward will often come and ask you to sit back down. If you refuse, security could remove you. Many younger people who attend concerts accompanied by their parents/guardians, shorter people, and disabled people who have their entire concert experience destroyed if you were to stand up in front of them. There are situations where people with limited mobility who cannot stand for long periods are seated at concerts too. If you make the choice to stand up, you are blocking the views of multiple people who also paid money to be there. You're free to sing and move around and have a good time, but actually getting to your feet and blocking the performance is extremely inconsiderate. Okay, interesting. So this is more of a cultural divide than I thought. I was very unaware. Read the room. You're not in Houston, you're in Sweden. I don't know their cultural norms, so you'll have to tell us. If it's the cultural norm to sit, then you should sit. However, if many people were also standing and dancing, then stand and dance. Am I the a-hole for going to a concert over my mother's wedding? My mom is getting remarried. My birth father passed away a while ago. A few weeks ago, I won Taylor Swift tickets on the radio for the same day as her wedding. I made the decision to go to the concert over the wedding, and I told her this, and she is very upset. She has not spoken to me since. I love my mother and feel bad missing her wedding, but I thought she would understand due to the circumstances. I do not like my soon-to-be stepfather, and I feel like seeing Taylor Swift is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I do not want to miss. Also, I have made it very clear to my mom over the past few months that I am not okay with the marriage, but still plan to be at the wedding. But then I won the tickets, and things changed. So, am I the a-hole for choosing the concert over the wedding? I'm gonna say you're kinda the a-hole because, Taylor Swift? Really? You can get tickets sometime down the line, but your mom's wedding is, only one time that you can experience that. Unless, things don't work out. You're the a-hole. You chose Taylor Swift over your mom? Weird. You're the a-hole. Even Taylor Swift wouldn't want you to miss your mother's wedding to go to her concert. Sure, but I doubt OP is going to the concert because Taylor wants her there, LMAO. You're the a-hole and very selfish. TS is not once in a lifetime, but your mother finding happiness again, regardless of your like for the groom, is very rare. Not the a-hole if you aren't okay with the marriage and have made that clear to your mom. But you are the a-hole if you are skipping the wedding and using that as an excuse. Taylor Swift is not once in a lifetime. Your mom's wedding just might be though. If you committed to coming, you shouldn't have even been in that giveaway. You're the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for evicting my roommates after they threw a party without my consent? I, 29 female, have 3 kids, and last year my husband/children's father passed away during open heart surgery complications. I was a stay-at-home mom and always had been, so I had no idea where to start. I'd never had a job, and admittedly, I didn't even have my license. It was tough from every single angle, but in short, I needed help, so I decided to let my best friend Jesse, 30, male, and his wife, Kim, 29, female, move into a spare room to help pay rent. I immediately went for my license, passed first try, and quickly got a job. During this time, my parents were helping with babysitting my kids, and thankfully, within 6 months, I had become comfortable with the adulting lifestyle. But we were all still grieving heavily, as I never really gave myself time to process the loss of my husband, nor did my babies really grasp that daddy wasn't coming home, which made things much more difficult. So anyways, my roommates have been fine for the most part, but have recently started attempting to get me to party more, let loose and have fun. Things I'm still not even remotely comfortable with, and I've expressed this multiple times. That and I have some unresolved trauma involving men from my childhood and don't really feel comfortable being around any guy while drinking. I'm working through that in therapy, started recently, but there's a long road ahead. Well, I picked my girls up from soccer practice yesterday and brought them out for ice cream. We got home around 6 p.m. and there were 4 or 5 unknown cars in my driveway and I could hear the music blared. I walked inside to find easily 10 plus people, mostly men, drinking, dancing, and partying with my roommates. I immediately turned off the music and told everyone to leave. My roommates called me a poor sport and said I need to let go. Between them having strange drunk men in me and my husband's home around my girls and not respecting my boundaries on no partying in general, I decided to evict them this morning, where I had a lease already drawn up stating I could evict them at any time with a week notice. I only gave them 7 days to be out, and I was within my rights to do so. They're saying I'm an a-hole for blindsiding them after all they've done for me, but then having drunk guys in my house around my daughters without even asking, knowing what I went through was not a situation I will ever forgive. Am I the a-hole? No, absolutely not the a-hole. These people purposefully disrespected your boundary that you had told them previously and have a perfectly valid reason as to why you wouldn't want that to happen. Those people are awful. You're totally fine. You're not the a-hole. You expressed your feelings about parties more than once, when one should be enough. They threw a party at a house with children. You are 100% not the a-hole. I'm very sorry for loss and really proud of the way you've managed your life after such a tragedy. Not the a-hole. Ignoring everything else, they threw a party with alcohol in your house where your children currently were without your consent. Disgustingly entitled. No, they deserved it. Plus, when you confront them, they still show no remorse. What a bunch of dumbass. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Drunk strangers are not safe around children. End of story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that I'm disappointed in her? Hello all. It's been rough with my only daughter as of late. My husband and I, both of us are 55, have one daughter, 30, female. We've been married coming up on 32 years soon. My daughter was in a long relationship and married for approximately 9 years, and for a long time I thought it was a good relationship. When out of nowhere, around 3 years ago, she decided to divorce her ex-husband. We were told it was a mutual decision, but that ultimately he wasn't the greatest partner and there were many things that she was not satisfied with in their relationship. So she wanted to leave. We supported her decision. About a year after the divorce, she introduced us to her new boyfriend. And while my husband and I thought it may be a bit early to date, we decided to continue to support her and meet him. He was and is a very charming man who treats our daughter wonderfully, and you can tell she is extremely happy. Now to the argument. Recently, we were talking with one of our daughter's friends who was visiting our town, and we're discussing our daughter's job and her wonderful boyfriend. Her friend in the conversation made a comment about how they were lucky to be in the same orientation together when they started work. As soon as she saw our confused faces, she gave us the full story, as she realized we hadn't been given it. Our daughter had told us while her and her boyfriend worked for the same employer, they didn't meet until after the divorce. We pressed the friend for more information, and she begrudgingly told us that our daughter and her boyfriend had met during orientation at work while our daughter was going through her marital issues. This led to them becoming closer and her filing for divorce from her ex-husband about a year later. So later that day, I asked to have a conversation with my daughter and brought up what her friend had told us. She turned white as snow and basically confirmed her friend's story, but reiterated that there was no physical cheating. I told her that physical cheating was not the only way you could hurt someone, and that it appeared that she had emotionally cheated on her ex-husband. He may not have been the greatest person, but it didn't excuse her actions. I told her that I was disappointed in her, and while I supported her leaving a bad marriage, that I couldn't look at her and her boyfriend the same in this new light in regards to cheating. I still love her and will treat her boyfriend with respect, but it is definitely something I have a hard time looking past. She got angry with me for not continuing to support her in her journey beyond divorce. Am I the a-hole? Gonna go ahead and say you're not the a-hole because as their parent, you have the right to feel disappointed in them, especially if your daughter technically cheated on somebody even if they weren't the best person. Like, it's still not a good precedent to allow cheating as a morally okay thing to do. You're the a-hole. It's not your business. She isn't 20 years old. I'm 42 and I don't really give a damn about my mother's opinion. Keep heading in that direction, won't you? You know, just based on this response, I have a sneaky feeling that you like to cheat on people and you don't like being told you're bad. You're the a-hole. She divorced him for a reason. It's not like she strung strung her ex along, she left him. And then a whole year later, she got with her current boyfriend. You're the a-hole. It is extraordinarily inappropriate and rude for you to think you have the right to decide whether or not your daughter's divorce was justified. The reactions here are a little interesting, because I feel like, I don't know, as the mom, you have the right to at least say it. It's not like she's saying you have to break up with your new husband. People are being weird right now. Am I the a-hole for eating someone else's birthday cake? So this happened the other week when myself and my friends, males and females ranging from 27 to 32, were celebrating my friend's birthday, Tim, at a restaurant. Next to us was another table, similar ages, no kids, judging from balloons and presents, who was also celebrating a birthday. The dinner went by normally, and when it came for dessert, some waiters came out with cake for Tim and sang happy birthday. We divided up the cake and began eating. Turns out the cake wasn't for Tim and was meant for the table next to ours. The waiter came over and asked us to stop eating the cake as it wasn't for us. We laughed as we thought it was a joke, and we were halfway through at this point. We noticed the other table staring daggers at us. We stopped eating and didn't outright apologize, but said to the other table we didn't know. Who checks to make sure someone organized this cake specifically for Tim? You're at a birthday and you see cake, so you eat it. After dinner, the other table yelled at us in the car park, calling us a-holes for eating their cake and for laughing when asked to give it back. I assume if anyone are a-holes, it's the restaurant. But what does Reddit think? Am I the a-hole? Edit to add things addressed in comments. The cake was a regular chocolate cake, so maybe why the other table didn't notice it as theirs straight away. The waiter took about 5 minutes after serving us the cake to come back. We did give the cake back after we realized it wasn't a joke and wasn't organized by someone at our table. If anything, I'd probably say the other table is kind of a-holes for blaming you guys specifically for seemingly a restaurant mix-up. Like the restaurant messed up and let you take the fall. Not the a-hole. The restaurant effed up by delivering the cake to your group. And once people were eating it, it was too late to just stop and give it back. Not a-hole. You didn't know. The restaurant made an honest mistake and other party was upset because you sort of stole from them. They shouldn't have yelled at you, but it's understandable. Not the a-hole. This is the restaurant's problem, not yours. The other group's anger was misplaced. You obviously didn't know the cake wasn't yours, so what exactly is it they expected you to do? Am I the a-hole for leaving my number on the bill? So I, 26, male, went out for dinner last night with a few friends. We were at this pretty nice restaurant and our waitress, female, early 20s, caught my eye as soon as we sat down. I thought she was really cute and had a great sense of style. Her outfit was really unique and just seemed to suit her perfectly. Anyway, throughout the night, she was really friendly and attentive, and I couldn't help but keep noticing her. After a while, I decided to go for it and compliment her on her outfit. I said something like, "Hey, I just wanted to say that you look really cute tonight, and your outfit is amazing. It suits you so well." She seemed to take the compliment well, smiling and thanking me. Later on, as we were finishing up our meal, I decided to write my number on the receipt and leave it for her, just in case she was interested in talking more or even going on a date. When I handed her the receipt, I told her, "I hope this isn't too forward, but I've really enjoyed talking to you tonight and thought you might like to get in touch if you're interested." She took the receipt and thanked me, but I noticed her smile seemed a bit forced this time. I figured maybe she wasn't interested, and that was fine. I didn't want to push her or make her feel uncomfortable. After we left the restaurant, my friends told me that what I did was inappropriate and that I shouldn't have put her on the spot like that at her workplace. They said it's not okay to hit on service workers who are just trying to do their job. I genuinely didn't mean any harm, and I thought I was being polite and respectful about it. God, this one's tough also. I'm gonna say unintentionally the a-hole. I understand we're all out there looking for love, but at a restaurant, they're more than likely just doing their job to get a better tip, you know? Throughout the night, she was really friendly and attentive. It is her job to be friendly and attentive. She seemed to take the compliment well, smiling and thanking me. You are a customer. What's she supposed to do? Throw a drink in your face? You're the a-hole, whether you meant to be or not. Please do not go back to apologize or otherwise contact her. You've already put her in a really uncomfortable spot. Oh my god, people still do that? After all the talk and the awareness campaigns? The waitress is at her place of work. Her literal income depends on her being nice to customers, even if they are drooling, hounding, self-unaware specimens. Repeat after me. She doesn't like you. She is trying to make a living. You're the a-hole. Sheesh. You're the a-hole. Don't hit on the workers at restaurants. They're just trying to get through their day. Soft, you're the a-hole. Don't hit on or ask out service workers. They're a captive audience, and customers can make their lives difficult if the employee turns them down. You put her in a difficult position. Also, don't discuss religion or politics with service workers coworkers. Am I the a-hole for going back on an offer to adopt my cousin? I was visiting family in South America 13 years ago. I met one of my cousin's kids for the first time. The young woman had just had her third kid and had been left by her boyfriend. He was the father of only the latest kid. She looked so worn down and sad. When I got back home, I spoke with my wife and she agreed that if his family was okay with it, we would adopt her youngest kid. It was an offer, not a demand, and we made sure to explain that we would help her out monetarily with the other two as well. I was adopted in a similar manner, so I've always felt a desire to pay it forward. My adoptive parents are also related to my biological parents, and they helped them with money too. Well, it became a huge deal. I was trying to steal a kid just because I had money and blah blah blah. So I said no problem and walked away from the offer. Well, that baby is 13 now, and his mother has had 2 more kids. She is being supported by her mother, but not doing great. Her 2 eldest kids are working and are going to school, but the 13-year-old is a bit of a jerk, I guess, skipping school and hanging out with the wrong people. My family contacted me to see if I were still willing to help him out by bringing him up here. I passed. This is a big difference between a baby and a 13-year-old troublemaker. Plus, I'm 50 now, and I don't really have the energy to deal with that stuff. So I declined. My family down there are crapping on me for going back on my offer, so I offered to pay all of his expenses down there if any of them would take him in. Nobody thought that was a good deal. I feel bad for the kid. I have a fairly good idea how his life is going to go. I just don't think that I'm the person to fix this problem. Am I the a-hole? Based on the timeline of events here, you're not the a-hole. You offered to take the kid in 13 years ago, and they all thought you were trying to steal the child. But now that it's convenient for them, they want you to do it, even though the offer has been off the table for a while. Not the a-hole. They declined, and now that the kid is problematic, they want you to take their child at 13 years old? Away from his family? Wow, they are honestly some messed up parents. You didn't go back on your offer. They rejected your offer. That was the end of the offer, by their choice. Offering to pay expenses is far more that most people would do in this situation. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The mental gymnastics your family plays when convenient is astounding. Stay firm. Nope, not the a-hole. No offer lasts 13 years, and adopting a baby is very different compared to adopting a teen, even a well-behaved teen. Am I the a-hole for telling my 12-year-old niece to not make life any harder for her mom? Throwaway count. I, 40, female, have a 12-year-old neurotypical niece and an 8-year-old high-needs neurodivergent nephew, 8 years old, male. They are my sister's kids, 37, female. My niece's birthday was yesterday, and she has cupcakes ready to bring to her class. My nephew doesn't sleep well at all, and both his parents are up with him a lot of the night and very sleep-deprived. Nephew snuck downstairs yesterday morning before everyone was up and ate most of the cupcakes. Parents forgot to lock the cabinet. Like I said, they're very sleep-deprived. Brother-in-law works about 60 hours a week as a physician, and sister is a stay-at-home mom. My niece called me from her cell. We're very close, and I only live 5 miles away. And with her being hysterical, I could also hear nephew having a meltdown in the background and his parents trying to calm him down. She was understandably upset because it was her birthday and she was bringing cupcakes to the class. Neither of her parents would be able to replace the cupcakes on time as sister had to take nephew to a doctor's appointment. They would have been there a number of hours, and her dad had several surgeries lined up that day and couldn't get out of work. We live in a rural area that doesn't have Uber Eats or DoorDash. My partner, 42 female, owns the local bakery and was able to go in early to make impromptu cupcakes for my niece, and my partner would deliver it to her school. I too couldn't get out of work, so I told my niece not to worry, that I would take care of it, but to please lay off her parents, that their lives are hard enough with her brother, that she shouldn't make things any more difficult for them because they're so burnt out and overwhelmed. She got angry with me because she said her parents were careless in forgetting to lock the cabinet. I told her it was an honest mistake that anyone could make. My partner thinks I shouldn't have said that because she's just a child. This is true, but her parents are literally hanging by a thread, and I'm trying to help the only way I know how. Her parents thanked us profusely for coming to the rescue with her cupcakes and offered to pay, but we declined, saying it was on the house. Am I the a-hole? I think this is a soft you're the a-hole, just since you probably shouldn't have said that to your 12-year-old niece because they're a child and they also want their parents to pay attention to them and their needs. But you're not fully an a-hole just since you did come through with the cupcakes to kind of salvage the birthday. You're the a-hole. My experience is that when a high-needs child eats up all of the energy and time and attention, the other child is told to stuff their feelings down at that age and it emerges somewhere else in life. For a couple of my students, it ended very, very badly. Her feelings are valid. She's too young to get over it for her parents like an adult. I agree agree with your partner. I don't know what the high needs are, but you might cover for the parents sometimes so they can sleep. Help them find a respite caregiver. Take the niece out away from the chaos. You're the a-hole. This girl has not been her parents' priority for 8 years now, and likely won't ever be again. She's lost so much of her childhood as the sibling of a high-needs neurodivergent kid, and now you, too, are expecting her to parent her parents? I feel for her parents. I do, but it's not their preteen's job to soothe their egos when she has to suffer in silence. You're the a-hole. She is 12, a child. She is reacting as a child would. She was not trying to make anyone's life more difficult, and that's not an appropriate thing to say. Children's brains are not as developed as ours. This was not her fault. You need to speak to her in a way appropriate for her age. Her parents being burnt out is on them, not the child. She's 12. 12! Not an adult, but a child. She has a right to be upset. It was her birthday, for crying out loud. You're the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for how I suggested my niece deal with homophobia? I'm 35 and I've been out as queer for at least 15 years. My sister's Jess's daughter, Renee, just came out as a lesbian. She's 16, and while her family and friends are accepting, she's had some issues with other people. Jess asked me if I could give her advice on it, and I gave her this advice. Sometimes people will try to debate you on your sexuality. I'd never engage. Even if you win, debating your personhood will eat you up inside. Instead, know this about bigots. Their hate isn't about you. When someone shames another person, they are often coming from a place of deep internal shame, self-restriction, isolation, etc. They see self-denial as a virtue to justify their own self-imposed restriction and resent the person who's in true accord with themselves. They're deeply lonely, in a fearful place, having been indoctrinated to fear their fellow man. They're part of churches or organizations that maintain power and control through fear of others, and you are unfortunately being othered as a propaganda tool. If someone tries to argue with you about your sexuality, ask them to reflect on themselves instead. Don't let them debate you. Just keep reminding them that they only have to answer to themselves and to God. I gave her all that advice, and she listened, and felt better hearing that the stuff people are saying about her is 100% not about her. But stuff got kinda rough when she went back to church next. Apparently, one of her dad's friends was giving her the whole love the sinner, hate the sin crap, and she went off on him, asking him in front of everyone why he was getting so red in the face, saying that she didn't want to debate her own sexuality, but she was concerned about him, that he was so clearly sad and afraid and ashamed that he was putting that pain out into the world, and she hoped he'd go home that day and reflect on whether he wanted to go through life letting fear and shame control and isolate him. It apparently made things really awkward and made the guy madder. He got at her saying she didn't know him, and she was like, I don't have to know you to see that. I'll pray for you. Which, damn, Gen Z is gutsy, and honestly, I was proud of her. But my sister was upset. She asked me if I told her daughter to call this guy sad and angry, and I said yeah, though just generally, not about that specific guy. My sister told me she thought I was setting her daughter up for trouble, that the stuff I suggested she say was gonna make a lot of people angry. I said those people were already angry. She said that advice wasn't age appropriate at all, and that I should have said more of the love yourself / self-confidence stuff. She wanted her daughter to be safe and worried about her saying that kind of thing. Am I the a-hole for the advice I gave? It was honestly the best advice I had, but I can see where my sister is coming from saying it's not the best advice for a teenager. Maybe a case of unintentionally the a-hole because the advice was good, I think. It was just the way the daughter interpreted it and how she used it which made it a lot worse. Not the a-hole. What she told that idiot definitely struck some truth within. You did fine. Your sister isn't as open-minded as she wants you to think. She worries about what her church family will think of her. She needs to be more concerned with standing up for her daughter and standing by her. Not the a-hole. You gave your niece solid advice and guidance. My question is, why is your sister angry with you instead of the grown man at church who felt the need to concern himself with her 16-year-old daughter's sexuality? That is downright creepy. What kind of grown man debates with a child about their own romantic orientation and yells, "You don't know me," when it doesn't work? I don't think your niece was in the wrong for defending herself in a church full of people who won't respect her, so not the a-hole. She needs support in a time like this, which is something you definitely gave her. Of course, people will get mad at her for defending herself, but it's way better to stand up for yourself than to keep quiet, because if you defend yourself, that shows they have no power over you. If you don't, they'll keep pushing you and think it's okay to. Am I the a-hole for not giving up my seat for an elderly woman on the tram. I, 26, female, am currently 5.5 months pregnant. Even though I'm in my second trimester, I don't look very pregnant. Additionally, I wear baggy clothes, so it would be tough to see my bump either way. In terms of fitness and health, I'm really active, but recently I've been struggling with fatigue from the pregnancy. After a full day of work, I'm a uni lecturer. On my feet, I'm exhausted. Today, I was on the tram headed home from work, and most of the seats were taken. I decided to sit in the seats reserved for those who need it, i.e. disabled, elderly, pregnant, with children. I usually don't do this unless I absolutely have to, like today. I was minding my business while listening to my podcast when this older lady, I'd guess late 60s, early 70s, tapped me on the shoulder. I removed my headphones and asked how I could help her. She said to me that it's rude of me to sit in these seats and asked if I could stand instead. The way in which she said that was pretty rude. I'm a shy person and hate conflict, so I was a bit taken aback by her attitude. As I began to try to explain to her how I'm pregnant, another passenger came over and repeated the sentiment of the older lady. Once they stopped talking, I managed to quickly say, "Actually, I'm pregnant," to which the older lady scoffed. She said I couldn't possibly be pregnant and told me to give her the seat. I refused to move and explained to her I needed the seat as much as she did. At this statement, she lost her mind at me. By this point, we had reached the next stop and the tram conductor came to see what the yelling was about. The older lady told him what was happening and he looked at me and said, "Are you really pregnant?" To which I obviously said yes. He then said to the lady that there was a free seat near the front that she could have, which she begrudgingly agreed to take. The other passengers then said to me that even if I am pregnant, I should always give up a seat to an elderly person as they actually need it more. After this, I actually felt pretty guilty. Maybe she did actually need it more than me, but how can you tell? So am I the a-hole for not giving up my seat to an elderly woman on the tram? Personally, I don't use public transit that often, so I don't know the rules about how seating works. I don't think you're the a-hole though. If anything, it's the older woman for just kind of being rude and accusing you of just faking being pregnant, I guess. Not the a-hole. If the other passenger was so concerned, they can give up their seat. Not the a-hole. The seats are for the elderly, disabled, and pregnant for a reason. Pregnancy causes the human body to exist at the limits of like high-endurance athletes for months at a time. That comes with aches, pains, instability, fatigue, etc. There's also the safety concern. Many pregnant people have low blood pressure, making them dizzier and more prone to falling. You're also off balance because your weight distribution isn't what you're used to. And falling while pregnant can be anything from minorly sore to very, very serious, depending on how you land, lucky, etc. Sorry, but I'm not risking my baby's life for etiquette. You did nothing wrong, and I'm sorry they made you feel like you did. I love how bystanders always think other people should sacrifice, but oh no, not themselves. Mine is mine, and yours is the community's. Not the a-hole. I know someone who fell badly while standing on a bus and several months pregnant, miscarried. Swollen ankles in pregnancy can F with balance in a bad way. You might not notice it normally, but while standing on mass transit, oh boy. There was other seats available, not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for eating salad in front of my girlfriend and then making a joke about it? I, 28 male, grew up in a family that put a lot of emphasis on healthy eating. As a kid, we always started dinner with a salad, and I've continued that practice as an adult. I don't take my salad with any dressing, and the only toppings I add are mushrooms and tomatoes. Since I don't put dressing on my salad, I often eat it with my hands since it's easier than trying to spear the dry mixed greens with a fork. I've been eating my salads like this basically since I was a teenager, and it was never an issue, even when having dinner with my parents. My girlfriend, 27, female, eats salads occasionally, but doesn't love them the way I do, which is fine. She's currently pregnant, and pretty much all she wants to eat right now is meat and potato type meals, which is also fine. She's had some severe morning sickness in the first trimester, and it's been a struggle to find food that she can consistently keep down. So we'll make something she wants for dinner, and then I will pair it with a side salad for myself, so I'm still getting my greens. Lately, I've noticed she's been a little distant during dinner, so I asked her about it. She said that my side salads are unappetizing to her, and she requested I stop eating them in front of her because it makes her nauseous to watch. I told her that everything makes her nauseous right now, and that it's not fair to me that I have to change my lifelong diet because of her pregnancy symptoms. She told me that the issue isn't with the salad, it's the way I shove it down my throat like a caveman. Apparently that makes her gag, and then she doesn't want to finish her own food. I told her that I've been eating my side salads like that for over a decade, and no one has ever commented on it, so I think she's being overdramatic. I told her that her caveman comment was rude and unnecessary, and that I would continue the conversation with her when she's ready to talk about it in a more reasonable way. day. She immediately got up and went into the nursery and shut the door behind her. When I walked by later, I could hear her crying, but I didn't go in and say anything because I feel like she should be the one to apologize to me for the crass comments she made about how I eat. She ended up sleeping on the glider in the nursery while I slept in our bed alone. We sat down for breakfast this morning in silence, so I attempted to diffuse the tension by asking if the way I was eating my toast was acceptable or if it was also making her nauseous. She immediately started crying again, calling me an a-hole and accusing me of not caring about her feelings or how hard the pregnancy has been on her. All I was trying to do was make a joke, and I know pregnancy is hard, but women go through it just fine all the time, so I don't understand why she's making such a big deal about it. So, am I the a-hole for eating my salads in front of her and then making a joke about it the next morning? I want us to sit down and resolve this when she gets home from work tonight, so I guess if I need to apologize, I will. Okay, you kinda had me there in the first half. I was on your side, but you kind of fell off the rails there, bud. It's not like she told you can't eat the salad anymore. She just doesn't like watching you eat the salad. So like bring it to the kitchen and eat it there if you really need it. The biggest problem is you kind of blaming her for being a baby about being pregnant. Like, come on, dude. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole for the joke you made. Easy solution for the salad. You can eat it before eating with your girlfriend and have a few bites of potatoes with her. Is it that hard to find a compromise? And you're 2 times an a-hole for your comment about how women are just fine with pregnancy. All my pregnancies and birth went perfectly. Still, I was nauseous with cravings during first semester. Still, I was more sensitive and less patient. Still, I had to deal with my body changing forever, etc., etc. You're just at the beginning of it. Step up, man. You're the a-hole. You have no idea what pregnancy nausea is. You literally eat salad with your hands. The toast comment was unnecessary and you know it. You're the a-hole. Your joke was passive-aggressive. If you thought it would diffuse the tension, you seriously lack any self-awareness. Also, use a fork. You're an adult. We all know he didn't say it to diffuse the situation. He was being petty. Ugh, these kinda hurt my brain, so I'm gonna go take a break now.